So UVI recently contacted me and wanted me to make a review of their sampler, and I said sure, but send me an instrument as well. And they sent me a lot of instruments. Ow! Hi there, this is Sam with Second Tier Sound. Really nice to see you here. So what are these instruments that I'm talking about? Well, UVI were very kind to send me a copy of their World Suite 2, which is a massive collection of world instruments, vocal phrases and loops. I think it's about 369 instruments and over 10,000 loops. So obviously neither you nor me have the time to go through all these instruments in this video, but I thought I would show you the more interesting parts, how it works, the UI, and also give you my honest opinion about this library and if it's worth your time or not. So let's get going. As you see, this looks quite a lot like the Play engine or the Opus engine by East West. You select your installed packages here, instruments, and then you just look at the different menus and found the instrument. But let's take a look at a few of them, and we'll start here with the balafon. You can see all these keys are brown, and it's not just because it looks cool with this picture. It also means that any key that has a color on it means that it has its own unique sample. And if it doesn't, if it's white like this, it means that it's down sampled by a previous key. So for example, we had G down here, and then F is also the same sample as G, but just downsampled and so on. And I also think it serves another purpose. It's showing you, I think, most of the instruments, what notes they have. So some instruments actually in real life don't have more than a certain notes. So the colors are indicating that as well. And then down there we have key switches. On most of these instruments, the key switches actually don't represent different articulations, but rather different presets or versions of the instrument. I can show you here, we have this one, Change. And so on. If you're into gamelan instruments, it has a lot of them. Also wanted to show that they have a lot of gongs here, and this is quite fantastic. If you're really into gongs and want a very specific sound from a specific area or country, they're pretty much all here. Let's just take a look at a few of them. Okay, let's take a look at some of the hand pans. And here's an example where you can see that, yes, all the keys here can be played, but this handpan probably only had these notes here, and those are the ones sampled. So if you want to be a little bit more realistic, you use those, but then if you want to play other notes, which is nice, then you have that option as well. This interface is very, very straightforward. You can add your own reverb. It sounds pretty good. You have an equalizer. Up here, you can change the mid frequencies. You have an envelope shaper, expression curve, and this, it's a little bit different depending on the instrument, but it's usually a way of changing the sound around a bit. Also up here, this is the same as the key switches, so you can see here what you're actually using, if it's an articulation or a different version of the instrument. There is an effect tab here, and this is quite okay, it works really well, but what I really want to show is the arpeggiator, and this surprised me quite a bit because it's really in depth. So if you enable that, you can see here, it's quite straightforward. You can do your own curve. But not just that, you can really mess about with what kind of arpeggiator you want to use and how it's going to behave, what kind of resolution, and all kinds of things. And also they have some fantastic, really fun presets that are well worth it playing around with. Just wanted to say that this is one of the better arpeggiators I've seen. I also wanted to show you the mbira, which is a very nice African instrument. Okay, so I know there's a lot of instruments I haven't shown. I just wanted to show you a little bit a taste of what's in there. But let's take a look at a different section here. Let's take a look at the fretted strings. So a really, really nice feel. I would say the guitars are not always the strongest, but this one I really like, and it's great for this kind of melody and comping. It does not have a lot of articulation. This is actually it. But in the context of a nice orchestra, this really, really works. I wanted to show you the bajo quinto, because the bajo quinto has a preset here called the bajo quinto harp. And maybe it's not the best guitar sound, or the bajo quinto sound rather, but I really like the feel of this, and it's very playable. So you actually have a nice upright bass here. Now we have a bouzouki. It's an instrument I don't know how to play, but I really like this sound. Now this is a cavaco, I think it's pronounced. You'll probably tell me in the comments if I'm butchering these names. Anyway, what I like about this one is that it has a lot of nice phrases. I don't think that the cavaco solo guitar is so great, but this I really like. So what you do is that you place your chord down here, and then you hit these different keys to get different phrases. Again, I'm probably really not playing the right style here. So my tip is always, when you play these instruments, to research a little bit about them. I didn't have time this time, but find a YouTube about this instrument and just try to mimic it. It's quite fun. You learn a lot and you find some new inspiration. This is quite a nice, I think it's pronounced chonguri. Again, just showing you the sound here, I'm sure there's a right way to play these instruments. This is a better instrument. It's you can see this is an upgrade. This is a truly World Suit 2 instrument. Has more articulations, better deeply sampled, better velocity layers. Okay, so let's take a look at one of the instruments I really love. I just find that this is not the most deep sample instrument out there, but it sounds great. It's really the right style, and I find at quite a lot of instrument libraries out there, they don't nail this as good as this library does. So if you hit a little bit harder there, which I didn't control very well, you get sort of an articulation there. And I just find this sound absolutely nailing the flamenco sound. Now, there's so much more you can do with the flamenco, obviously, so it doesn't cover a lot of bases, but just as a nice sound in the background, it works great. And I also wanted to show you even though there are a lot of good instruments here, that it has a great flamenco rhythm here, and I really love this. So again, as the other guitar we showed you, you can hit the chords and get great rhythms, and this is quite hard to do on your own, so I really appreciate this. And so on. I messed up there a little bit, but it's very simple to create a very nice flamenco background. So very appreciated. I know it's simple, but this works really, really well. And here in this case, you can actually change if you want just one of the guitars, a mono 1 or 2, or just them together in a stereo package. That really adds some dynamic to the sound as well. The guitarrón, I think it's pronounced. I like this because it has a really bassy quality. And I'm sure that's not the proper way to play this, but it's a really nice bass sound that is quite funky. Then we have the Irish bouzouki, which is similar to the other bouzouki, but just a little bit different sound, and I like that it's here. One thing I really like here is a very interesting sound, the Portuguese fado guitar. Again, I actually not familiar with the fado guitar, but this sound I like, and I will definitely use it in my acoustic ensembles. Let's take a look at some other sections here. We have the key section, and we have quite a lot of different accordions. They're really, really good, all of them, but I'm just gonna show you some of the accordions. So here on the right side, the blue is your right hand when you play. And on the left hand, you play chords. So you have to actually hit more than 2 notes, I think. Yeah, to actually get a note. If you just hit one, you won't get any. Just like a real accordion in a way, you have to get a harmony. So you can do chords. And then you have even bass notes here. So you kind of need 3 hands to do here. So I wouldn't do this live. I would program it in. I'm going to show you one more accordion that I really like, and it's the concertina. Something that is quite important with this instrument is that you work a lot with the expression layer, because accordions really have a very strong dynamic layer when you pump air into them. So that's something, if you want a realistic sound, to think about. So the next instrument I wanted to show you is this piano bass string, don't know what to call it. Quite a lot of resonance there. It just sounds like an old upright, but it's a nice addition. Another instrument I really wanted to show you is something I wasn't aware of, and I was very happy to find this. It's called Näshult table piano. I think it's Näshult because it's a Scandinavian sound, and that would be how you pronounce this. But just listen to the sound of this thing. Let's go to the next section, percussion. Just want to say there are a lot more instruments than I'm showing you here. This is called the Bulgarian tupan. They don't give you a lot of dynamic layers, but rather a lot of different sounds, which I kind of like. It works quite well. So you can either just use this very interesting drum for sound design, or you can actually look it up and see how you play it if you want to be more realistic. I wanted to show you the Latin percussion because it's one of these sets that is quite nice, where they just give you access to pretty much all the drums in this genre. So let's see what we got here. You get a lot of bells here, and then you change the key switch. All right. They give you a lot of different sounds. The problem here a little bit that quite a few of these only have one dynamic layer, it seems like, at least. So they quickly get repetitive. But because you have so many different sounds here of this, you can quite easily program something that sounds very good anyway. So again, really a lot of nice sounds, a lot of variety, and quite a lot of instruments that you can use in Latin percussion. Let's take a look at one of my favorite instruments and one of my favorite percussion instruments in this library, the Persian dove, which is sort of a frame drum. So then we have the tabla here. I really like the sounds, and you do get a lot, but one thing I don't like is that there's not too many dynamic layers, and basically all these different variations are just the same drum pitched in different keys, which is important. You need to be able to have the right tuning, but I find it not that easy or intuitive to play with. Let's see. And so on. So you can see here I can play the different tunings and a few different sounds. Let's take a look at the taiko. This is really nice. This is a very authentic sounding taiko. We're not talking about the typical big space hybrid trailer sound, but actually authentic sounding taiko drums. And they have different versions. And this is very well laid out. As you can see down here, you have the same drums twice, so you can really play with it here. I wanted to show you the Turkish percussion as well, because I really like these sounds here. it's hard to know what key is doing what. So it doesn't feel like there's a specific set, like this key is always a slap or whatever. It's just a bunch of really nice samples that you have to really memorize and learn in order to get a good sound out of it, which you will do if you master it. Let's take a look at one of my favorites here. The Udu. I love the Udu. Basically, the white keys are different hits and the black ones are different trills. Wow, love this one. This is so good. This is one of the best percussion sounds here by far. Very, very dynamic, very inspirational, sounds fantastic. Okay, let's take a look at the next section. We have a stringed section. So here we have the Alpine Concert Zither or Zither or Zither, don't know. Somebody will comment, will tell me how to pronounce this, but it's a really beautiful sound. I really like the Finnish kantele, so I obviously cannot do justice to this instrument, but I do want to say that this instrument here sounds very good and very close to the real thing. And again, even if you don't know how to play this instrument, it has such a lovely sound that it really will add to your composition in general. Great texture, very well sampled. Let's take a look at the Hungarian Cymbalium. Really beautiful sound and also a very wide range, so you really can do things with this one. So Cora is very important to me, so I'm probably more picky than others here, but as you can see here, you get the right notes by looking at the colored keys. Let's take a look at the koto. Again, don't know how to play this one, obviously. I don't know how to play most of these instruments, but again, I just wanted to stress that they sound so beautiful that you just want to try them out, and I find that they just add a great character. Let's take a look at the santur. One critique could be that a lot of these plucked instruments are very similar, but I find that's not entirely true. They're uniquely and well sampled, so each instrument actually gives a very different vibe and energy, which is excellent if you want to stand out and tell a good story. Here's an instrument I really like. I don't know much about it, and I'm not just trying to be political here with the situation in the world, but this Ukrainian bandura is really beautiful. Alright, let's take a look at the woodwinds. I do find that a lot of the flutes are one of the weaker parts in this library because the legatos are not that great, but some of them sound really nice anyway. We have the whistle, the Celtic whistle. I messed up there a little bit. Just want to show you this instrument has a little bit more of articulation, so you can make it a little bit more alive. The didgeridoo is basically a bunch of different patches here that you just hold down and play, and that's probably the best way. It's kind of hard to have an instrument where you play the didgeridoo. The different key switches are basically different keys. So nothing really advanced there, but it works really well and it sounds very good. The folk recorders are really nice because you have pretty much all of them from bass up to sopranino, so you can get that sound. I like that they also have built in a little bit of an attack if you hit the key a little bit harder. Now this is great because I've been looking for harmonicas out there and I've never been very satisfied. And I find this quite a good one, especially if you know how to play it right. This one I really like. How to pronounce it though? Maybe it's Nadhaswaram or Nadhaswaram. You let me know. Really nice. I wouldn't use the legato version because it doesn't really work. But this with the key switches you can get quite nice. Also an instrument that I don't see in a lot of sample libraries, the ocarina or the Peruvian ocarina. Then we have the PKU Basic. That's what it says on the name. Let's see how it sounds. And then we have the recorders that worked pretty much the same as the folk recorder before. So you have the different flutes here. And the last instrument I want to show you is the shakuhachi, which is difficult to play live rightly, but with all these key switches you can actually get quite a nice performance if you know what you're doing. There's still a lot of instruments I haven't showed you in this library, but hopefully this will give you an accurate taste of what to expect from this library. So let's talk about what I think about this library. What are my conclusions? Is it any good? Should you get it? Well, it depends a little bit what you need. If you're looking for those strange world instruments that you can't find anywhere else, chances are you will find them in this library. It's really massive, it has a lot of instruments, so it is a good deal. You get a lot for your buck, you get a lot of instruments, and most of them sound pretty decent. But let's talk a little bit about the quality consistency here, because I find that some instruments are really nice and some of them are okay and some of them are really not so good, and I wonder why there is such a difference in quality here. I'm not talking so much about the sound, because the sound in general is really good, it's well recorded, it sounds warm and inspiring. It's more of the scripting, for example the legato, and also dynamic layers and round robins. Let me tell you what I mean. Like, some instruments have fantastic dynamic layers, so you really feel that you can hit different velocities and get different sounds and qualities, and it sounds very, very detailed and it's very inspiring. While some instruments hardly have any, or maybe just two, so when you start to repeat a note you feel immediately, oh, that's the same sample. That's a shame, and sometimes with the round robins as well. And then the legato engine, unfortunately, is not good at all. If you're looking for legato samples, this is not it. I don't know why, maybe this is an older technique, or they just didn't get the scripting right, or it was an afterthought, because it doesn't work in this library. Fortunately though, most instruments here don't need a legato. So let's talk a little bit about the key switches as well. And this is a little bit of a different approach. Most libraries, when they have key switches, that means there are different articulations that you can use to get more of a realistic sound and different things you can't always do with your keyboard. But in this case, it's not different articulations, but actually different variety, different versions of the sound, different presets. Not always, but most of the time. So you might want to think about that. You don't have a lot of different articulations here on most instruments. I also find that some of the drum maps are confusing. What I mean is that I don't know what I'm hitting. Obviously, I can see where the drums are, but I don't know exactly what drum is doing what, and there doesn't seem to be a thought out model of how this is structured. So you really have to try each key and then try to program out what you want to do. It's not something you play live very easily. Something that is interesting also is that the keyboard shows what is sampled. So if there's a color on the keyboard, that means that that key is actually sampled. If there's no color on that key, that means that it hasn't been sampled, just pitched the instrument. You know, you can take a note and then pitch it higher or lower and you get more samples that way. And you can hear that. Some instruments have a lot of samples, you can see, and some of them have very little. So also interesting, there's no consistency there. Let's talk about the UI. The UVI UI in general, it's decent. It's quite easy to work with. You know what you're gonna get. It has good effects, but it's very small and it's not scalable. So if you have a big monitor, or high resolution, it might be quite tiny for you. Otherwise, it has a really nice arpeggiator. I was surprised. I was trying that out. It has lots of options. It's very advanced. It's not lacking at all there, and it really can be quite fun to use with these instruments here. Well, I want to say I actually really like this. There's a lot of good instruments here that are very useful, that can complement a lot of other libraries. So if you're working with this kind of music, or maybe you're a media composer, this is a really, really good set to have. So it is a recommendation for me, and if you really consider all the instruments you get, even though quite a few of them are not that good, there are enough instruments here that are very good and very inspiring. And so I was very happy to discover this and to play around with this instrument. So I just wanted to say thank you UVI for giving me a copy. I just wanted to say again, they're not sponsoring me, they're not telling me what to do, and they have no say in how I do this video. I hope you find this content valuable for you. If it did, then feel free to hit the like button, write a comment what you think about this library, or perhaps subscribe to my channel and even become a patron if you want to support me creating more videos like this. So until next time, I hope you don't spend too much money on buying libraries, and I hope you write a lot of music, and take care.